Welcome to the May 1st meeting of the Weare Board of Selectmen. Would you please stand? We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You could join me in a moment of silence for the passing of Maureen Betts. Thank you. Next on our agenda is department heads, and we have Chip Meany, our code enforcement officer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The reason for this visit, and I have included some paperwork for this. We're in process of cleaning up Next Generation Garage so that the highway guys can move in. There's quite a lengthy report on that, but for the sake of brevity, we're doing pretty well. It's almost rewired. The electricity's back on. One of the more outstanding problems up there was an environmental disaster noted somewhere back around February 9th of 2016. The state of New Hampshire has an outstanding complaint against Mr. Brooks. And there's a checklist of the things that needed to be done. Most of these have already actually been taken care of. The last remaining thing is to have the hazardous waste and barrels of oil removed. I solicited quotes from 3 different companies. 2 responded, 1 did not. I would recommend, if you look at the quotes, AccuWorks. He's the only one that actually came out and looked at anything, and he included sampling of what's in the barrels in his quote, which was not done by the other company. The other company just said, oh yeah, we'll pick up the barrels and this is what it's going to cost. I think that a better service is being done by the AccuWorks, and I would recommend that you take them. Now, some of the things that are on this, because I really couldn't get up there when this guy, he just appeared. But he is the only one that actually came. And there are some things on there that we've already taken care of, and there are some things not. So I can't say that this is an accurate bottom line price, but if you could give me a not to exceed price of about $2,500, he's at $2,085. I'm sure we can get rid of everything that we need to. There are some additional oil barrels, oil 275 gallon tanks that need to be done that were hidden out in the woods that we didn't get to look at. And once that is done, the guy from AccuWorks also was the only one who actually called the Department of Environmental Services and spoke with George Kerrigan, who was the original investigating agent from DES, and they kind of came to a mutual meeting of the minds of what needed to be done out there and how things would work. So, I would recommend that you accept his bid, or ballpark thereof. And as soon as you let me know what you want to do, I will have them removed. We've taken the barrels and moved them inside. The barrels were starting to break apart, and we ended up having to take all the asphalt off of one side of the building and we put it down in the pit to be reclaimed and recycled. And nobody knows what's in the barrels. Otherwise, we could burn them in our own waste oil furnace.
One of the things that we did in this year's budget was to assign the hazardous waste line to the budget and not as a separate warrant article. And what that will allow when we say, well, where's this money coming from? It doesn't it allows us to spend somewhat over what was in the budget and find it at other places to subsidize. So the only reason I say that, I'm not sure we have to define it tonight, but if we need a line to assign it to, we have a line for hazardous waste in our regular budget. And then we can decide when we have a hazardous waste day where to pull from in order to get our full 7,000 out of that. I think for tonight, if we just have a motion, that we can sort that out, but there is a line that it could be assigned to.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any action going against Mr. Brooks to recoup for this cleanup?
Well, yes, I was gonna add that when you got done asking me your barrage of intelligent questions. Evidently, the entire process, as you all know, the town is not in the business of being realtors or real estate agents. So that building, eventually, when we're done with it, you guys will be selling, whether you auction it or sell it or whatever you do with it. At that time, we need to recoup the losses that we had from back taxes. Any money that we put into it to get it serviceable to use, and when it's sold, the remainder of the funds would go to Mr. Brooks. So whatever we are spending, if this is the answer to your question, whatever we are spending, Beth is keeping a running total of all the expenses that we have, including the plumbers and electricians. The code violations were just phenomenal in there. And it would be unsafe to put our guys into another defective building coming from one that they have now. So all that stuff will be added up and deducted from whatever you sell it for, and whatever's left will go back to Mr. Brooks.
Any other questions? Dan? No? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the estimate from AccuWorks out of was it Dover, New Hampshire? Portsmouth, New Hampshire, for the cleanup of next generation auto on Stark Highway here in town Weare. Total of the estimate that they have is $2,085.
Second, anyone?
I think he wanted not to exceed 2,500 for a specific reason.
Yeah, well, that was before I knew about the hazardous waste fund.
Oh, okay.
But I would say we could cap this at $2,500
And not to exceed 2,500.
and be happy.
Is there a second?
Is there gonna be in that motion where it came from? Is it gonna come from that line?
I don't think we have to do that now. Let's sort it out. It's gonna come out of the budget.
Right, no, I know it's gonna come out of the budget, but.
Yeah.
You will have to check that.
Mhm.
And it will be going back at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
And one last thing, oh, you haven't voted yet, so I'll wait.
Were you gonna second it or do you want me to?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I'll second
Hmm?
Good boy.
Oh, yeah.
it. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And while I have your attention somewhat, the house is another disaster. It is full of lead and asbestos. We've had that tested last year. Service Pro went in and did that. We are not going to repower the house. Unfortunately, because of the code violations of the way the water system is, we have to use the existing water system as it is. So we're putting a new pump in the basement of the old house, running a new electric feed up to it so we can run water, but there'll be no power in that house other than the pump. And we can deal with that at a later date.
I don't see seeing all here for department heads. So if we can look at the minutes of our last meeting. I found absolutely nothing wrong with them. No amendments.
Well, on page 2,
Oh,
I'm sorry. First paragraph, a short discussion was ensued. I just took the word was out. So half, almost down to the end of the paragraph.
you're right, that's good.
That's it.
Can't have anybody thinking they're perfect. Move to approve the minutes of April 24th as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We do not have an administrator here. Did she leave you with anything? No. Okay. Naomi is still out on sick leave following the surgery.
For the manifest.
That's what I'm looking for.
Oh.
And move to order the treasurer to sign payroll and accounts payable checks dated May 4th, 2017, as included in the following manifests. A payroll manifest of $42,987.07. A fire department payroll manifest of $12,686.38. And an accounts payable manifest of $21,116.55, for a total of $76,790. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comment.
Good evening, John Van Walker Hill. Regarding the police chief's contract, where are we at with that? Because that should be due up soon.
All I can tell you, John, is that the police chief's contract is through June 7th.
Okay.
And we really haven't had any specific discussion. We had a short non-public with him a couple of weeks ago, just to kind of get a feeling of, well, first of all, we want to bring him back.
Yep.
But we really never got to a point of discussing any details whatsoever. We have in hand his old contract, and we have in hand the job description.
Has the board come to a consensus whether they will still accept a part-time chief or if they want to move to a full-time chief?
We haven't had that discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Can the camera turn more on public comment?
Pardon me?
Can the camera turn more? Yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's all right, leave it off. Might get rubbery here. One thing Tim Matheson, 80 River Road. One thing I'd like to address the board on is the Article 7 from this last year's vote, the $75,000 for the government building maintenance fund. A week or two ago, I heard that one of the selectmen felt that it was because of a person in public comment speaking about projects that are going to an article instead of paying for it per diem. And I just think that's a board member's opinion, but I hope that's not the opinion of all. Reading on to what the Finance Committee wrote in reference to that. It says, this article would provide funds to begin repairs to the town hall gazebo to arrest further decay in these structures. However, it is not clear to the Finance Committee that the town has taken steps to create a comprehensive work plan, secure appropriate quotes, establish an appropriate working budget for projects. Therefore, the Finance Committee thinks this request is premature. I feel that, like I said, you seem to have been blamed on a person that wanted to put into articles, but I think it's just like us dragging our feet on, like the town hall door project, for example. That's one. I had a chance to meet with the clerk of the works the other day. I was interested for the sole reason, supposedly the committee for the building committee was dissolved. So I took a chance and went to a Wednesday meeting, and sure enough, there were people there. And I had a chance to talk to the clerk of the works after some discussion, and he would allow me to ask him some questions. I have a list I'd like to present to you and the clerk of the works. I don't have an email, so if I could copy these at the end, give you each one. Some of the questions I asked were basic in nature. Radiant floor heat slab. How many zones were on the floor? And how is it zoned to shut off different areas of the building to have multiple zones? He didn't seem to know how many zones there were. Insulation under the slab. I asked him for the thickness. He didn't really know. I asked him for the density, which is very important. It's a, what it is, it's a rigid board, rigid foam board that will go under the slab, and it's going to have the correct compression strength, otherwise the slab will fail. He didn't know the density offhand. He didn't really know the R value of that insulation, but I did ask him about the vapor barrier. He didn't know about that. He answered that question. R value of the roof and sidewall insulation. The sidewall insulation and the R value for the roof. Clerk of the Works answers were, both questions were, it has twice the R value required. So with no affirmative R value listed. And then then he told me that there was a $50,000 dehumidifier within this building. I asked him if he had a calculation of annual cost, power consumption, because those things take a lot of juice, and I can't imagine what a $50,000 dehumidifier looks like. Garage doors, just so we don't get stuck like we did over at the safety complex. I asked him about what type of door would be used within the building. In a building like that, they tend to put in a semi-vertical door. It goes up and at an angle, so it doesn't go overhead like a traditional garage door. And the clerk of the work said the traditional style would go in. And therefore, if you tried raising your bodies as presented, placed in the parking spaces provided, it wouldn't work because we'd take the actual garage door down. There's that. So I asked him also, and we had this problem at the safety complex, the gauge of the rails, the hardware to be used, just so we don't get stuck with residential items. And he didn't know what size, gauge, or anything was. Like I said, if we use the traditional style overhead rail, and I talked to Benji tonight about this, and I don't think he knew that that was going to be within the building. because the door would impede the truck body going up and wipe out the door. Like I said, parked in place. Size of the rollers, like a residential, is I think 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. These should be probably, I believe it's 2 inch to 3 inch for industrial use. What I didn't get to ask him was the type of tank for the waste oil. Just wondered if you guys know if it's metal, plastic, is it double walled? Does it have a concrete containment tank? I didn't get a chance to answer that question. But the clerk of the works asked that I email all these questions to him because he couldn't answer them, unfortunately, at that time. But I do not have an email address. I also asked Ben Knapp and the clerk of the works to see if I suggested a proposal. If they would add another firewall in lieu of the fire suppression system, this would, at any time, we could split up the truck bay with your 13 or 14 trucks within. At any given time, we'd only lose 1/3 of our building or half of our truck fleet. It'd be divided into thirds, so at any given time, even with the shut-off switches, there's more than one mechanism, as you know, for a fire to start. So that was my proposal, and Benji said that they asked the contractor, the GC, about getting a price on that, because he was talking about trading in his wash curtain for a firewall. So the GC is going to look into see what the cost would be using the money from the interior wash curtain. This would protect the, you know, at any given time, like I said, I'm not comfortable with 1/3 of it burning down, but I'd rather see 1/3 go than 2/3 of the building and all the truck fleet. Because at this time, with an aging fleet like that, we'd only get cash value, actual cash value for our trucks, unless they're short for replacement value. That I don't know. And I think, I would imagine, adding an extra firewall within, you would save money with the insurance company. They would reflect on that a little better than having the whole fleet go up in lieu of the 7 other towns surrounding us losing their DPW garages. And I would like to invite the public to look at the YouTube videos on February 29th and March 7th. I had asked about the $1.36 million article for the highway garage back on February 29th. And Tom, I actually spoke to you. You addressed this issue about the $184,000 going to the well, the septic, the cistern, pump, sprinkler system, paving. And another gentleman also spoke to public comment that night, advising the Board of Selectmen that the problems associated with the radiant heat, concrete floors, bring in vehicles with snow to melt off and built up ice. It creates a big frying pan and a sauna type situation mess. Condensation on whatever touches it's cold, electrical outlets, tools, sidewalls, ceiling, causes extreme condensation and mold problems if not properly vented. That same night, another gentleman spoke to entertain the thought of hiring out the snowplow, the town snow plowing a portion of, therefore minimizing the town infrastructure. And then on March 7th, it's one day before voting, we have a representative from the building committee comes on and pretty much condoned what myself and the 2 other gentlemen said. It was a rebuttal and condemned our statements from the week previous, January 29th. about looking for alternative building situations, smaller buildings, subcontract near the snow, excessive issues, moisture issues due to radiant heat condensation. And there was two gentlemen that stood up on that YouTube video and spoke about the radiant heat. And they said it was no problem, you just squeegee the snow away, and if there is any snow that falls on the floor, it just evaporates. So as you know, it doesn't just go outside, it clings to the roof or anything cold. Furthermore, at that same night, one night before the voting, it was quoted the fire suppression cistern would cost $66,000 for the cistern alone, $40,000 for the pump. The outside work would be at $106 per foot, I'm imagining. I don't know how we come up with that number, but the inside work for the fire suppression system would be $35,000 for a then quoted total of about $141,000 for the complete system. But yet, 2 weeks ago, we have people from the committee coming in and asking, what happened to the committee? Why are we eliminating the fire suppression? Two people come on, and I'm glad Lori Davis brought this to my attention. I saw her quite upset, and I tuned in to this, and you know, a lot of people voted for that. It's like she said, there was a lot of politicking that was involved to get that building. It's been on the warrant for like 7 years in a row, and then finally people said, in lieu of these other buildings burning down around us, you know, if we put fire suppression within, people voted for it. Like I said, but yet 2 weeks ago, the same building committee member comes on to Channel 6 and states, who was to know about the moisture issue? And he was the very person I addressed it to the last time that condoned me and the other gentleman's thoughts that spoke on the 29th of February of 2016. Like I said, I would like to invite everyone to watch the YouTube videos of February 29th, 2016 and March 7th, 2016. But I would hope that they seriously look into an auxiliary firewall that would split that building up into thirds so we don't lose the whole mess of equipment. Because in the end, it's only going to hurt Benji. He's not going to get a renewed fleet. People are going to lose confidence. It's just going to be a mess. And any other, this is like the second biggest municipal project in Weare for the town. I don't think we're ever going to be able to do anything else for any other structure because it's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouth. It's not pleased with it. Thank you.
You had a list you wanted to leave with us?
Excuse me?
Did you say you wanted
can I
to
get someone to make a copy of it?
Sure.
Here you go, Beth, if you can read my chicken scratch. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else for public comment? If you wait just a second until our minute taker gets back, so Ellen, so she can hear what you have to say and write it down.
Alden Towns, Huntington Hill Road. In learning of the elimination of the suppression system for the garage, I've noticed that there, and we all know that there's no cistern down in that area of town if there were a fire down there. Does the planning board or any, the building committee have any plans of a cistern outside or water source for the fire department?
They use that pond behind the dog catcher building. There is a pipe down into that.
Okay.
There's a cistern.
And that's
There's a dry hydrant
staying
pipe.
throughout the site work?
I haven't been told otherwise, as far as I know.
Okay,
But yeah, there is a pipe down there for that pond.
okay. And that will be sufficient enough down there?
Yeah.
For that?
Yeah.
And what's that, the building's still over 10,000 square feet now, correct?
The total building, I think, is 11,200
Yeah.
approximately. It is, but it was,
How did we squeak by state law to have no fire suppression in the building?
the firewall separating the two sections reduces each side to under 10,000 square feet,
Okay,
which allows it to be within code because of the firewall.
okay. And is that firewall protecting the area of, like, let's say the offices and the locker rooms upstairs?
Yes, what we've got is,
So you're anticipating a fire in the garage?
there are 6 bays where the trucks will be parked. And they'll be parked 2 deep. A 10-wheeler and a 6-wheeler would fit in
Right.
each one, which would take care of the truck fleet as it is. And then on the other side of the firewall, there are 2 bays for parking the grader and the loader. And as part of that also is a lift and a work area for the mechanic and the offices. So, and whatever vehicle washing would be done would be in the bays, in the truck bays,
Yep.
with the firewall being one side of the washing bay, and it would drain directly into the center drain
Mhm,
with a
mhm.
tank under the floor.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. So, I don't know how you guys can anticipate a fire, but if I were working in that garage and I'm upstairs, and there's no way to put a fire out because it's down below me, I wouldn't like that.
Yeah, just to clarify one thing, the only thing that's upstairs in the building is.
But there
storage.
is upstairs.
It's simply a storage area over the offices. There are no lockers up there, there's no
Okay,
human workspace up there. It's simply a storage area. There'll be a stairway to it. There'll be a gate that opens so
But
that
you
things
still
can
have
be
the
lifted up there.
chance of somebody being up there, something happening.
There is, of course.
You
but
know.
There wouldn't be anybody up there using it as a workspace. It would be somebody going up to get something or.
But it's foolish to assume nobody will be up there if something happened, you know?
Oh, yeah, I know. But it's not a permanent workspace, as I do want to clarify.
Right,
It's a
right.
storage area.
Right, right. I have a problem with not, we voted for one thing, a garage with fire suppression. It was in the estimate, it was on the article, and now it's getting pulled out. Where did that money get spent? Why are we losing something that's so important as safety, and that's so much money? Where are we showing for that money? What are we showing for that? What are we gaining from taking that away?
Well, the choice that they had is to eliminate 2 bays and leave 4 trucks outside.
I'm fine with that.
Well, that wasn't the decision that was made. I mean, you can disagree with it.
Isn't in the article also written for future expansion as well? We're not done buying trucks. We tend to add trucks more than we get rid of them. So, in a couple of years, we'll outgrow that thing anyway.
Well, hopefully not, but,
It will happen. We're already complaining that, the safety complex needs more room.
the issue, Ellen, really is that we went into this we had to go into it as a design build project.
Yes,
We
which
didn't
is,
have upfront plans, put out the specific plans, everybody bid on them, so we know what we had, our best estimate from the committee in their research of what the project would cost at a building of 11,200 square feet. We looked at one of the places, we looked at Henniker, what did it cost them per square foot to do it? And we based our estimates only in part on that, but also on tracking down what would it cost for the cistern and the fire suppression system, what would it cost for the other accessories, and then came up with a figure as best estimate of what the building would cost at that size. But again, we had no plans to go out with.
right,
So
is
we
the
had to put it out-
concept of a,
concept, and then it goes to the contractor, the general contractor. We had, I don't know the number of bids, but there were only 2 that came in that we thought were reasonable.
yeah,
And we interviewed those 2 and decided on the contractor that we have. And then turned it over to them. They then hire and pay the architects and the engineers, the land engineers and so forth. And they worked on it through all of the possible subcontractors and what it would cost for all the things that go into a building, and it didn't add up to the amount that we,
for that square footage.
for that square footage, right?
When you do a design build, isn't, when you can't come up with the figure, you know, the building you want for the figure you need, wouldn't you sacrifice square footage over safety every time? I mean, if you were building a house, wouldn't you kind of, oh, I don't need the great room, I'd rather have sprinklers in your house?
Well, there are other factors
You
here.
know,
You know, I hate to
I
be the
hear,
one.
you know, the 50,000 for dehumidifiers, which I'm not surprised. I was here on March 29th telling the board about the humidity that comes from radiant heat. And now it's a shock that, oh, well, we had to hear it from Henniker Town Garage, you know, to fix the problem of what will be, you know, humidity. So that $50,000 humidifier can help pay for a good chunk, a cistern, you know. That's the only thing else I see that you pulled away the sprinkler system, and now some of that money's going towards dehumidifiers. And radiant heat is expensive to do. I've done it before. Like I said, I've got it in my house. It's not cheap. It's a little less expensive to run, but you don't gain recovery as quick as you would, let's say, forced hot air or a different type of radiant heat from the ceiling. I like the kind of radiant heat for the workspace where it comes down from the ceiling, heats objects, your tools. Advantage Motorsports used to have it. That's awesome heat. You go grab your tools, it's warm, no condensation on anything. They used to wash everything in that garage, and that was nice. I worked in there when I was younger. So, you know, the radiant heat in the big garage, every time you open the door, the heat's gonna leave, and it's gonna take hours for that temperature to come back. You got water on the floor. What do you do? What happens when you put water on a hot pan? Cools it off. Same thing with a concrete floor. You gotta heat it back up. That floor is never gonna shut off in the wintertime. Mine doesn't in my house. And we only leave in the morning at night. And that floor does not shut off. It's nice and warm in there. It's humidity in there a little bit, but it's not a workspace heat. I would really like to see some sort of action of looking at something different for the garage with the radiant heat. You might find some savings to do something else and put the fire suppression back in the building. You don't got to insulate underneath the concrete. That's expensive too. That's very expensive. And that floor, the dirt, has to be spot on, because foam board is flat, straight as an arrow. Dirt's not. You get any kind of, little divot in the dirt, when they're laying the concrete, that foam, being as rigid as it needs to be, is not gonna sink down into any kind of concave in any of the dirt. So once trucks hit that, you're gonna get some cracks. I have all the faith in the world of the contractors that are gonna do it, but it's a very difficult thing to do. And for that square footage of a flat floor with the pitch towards the center, that's a damn trick. So I really would like to see some action, this thing being put off a little bit, to build this garage right. I mean, my opinion is probably different than others, but I don't see this working out.
Well, we have, your opinion as part
Yeah.
of the minutes.
Yeah.
Just one comment, because
ahead.
some of the things I really can't debate
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
But we visited a garage in Weare that has the radiant heat, and they loved it, and they didn't have any of the problems that apparently Henniker has with the.
How big is their fleet?
Well, the garage was 100 feet by, I think, 120, so it's similar.
Similar size.
Yeah, it's different shape. And their building was open on the ends rather than garage doors down the side.
Mhm.
But the radiant heat, and they had an inside wash bay in one corner
Mhm.
that was separated out from the rest of it. Beautiful building. If I could have
Should be.
put it down here and made it a
Newbury's
little
got some
longer,
money.
it would have been great.
Yeah.
But also, it was beyond what we could afford.
Yeah.
But we did look at a building with radiant heat, and we did ask questions about that. And I do remember you're calling me with concerns because of the humidity that you had in your garage area
Mm.
on radiant heat. But that, to me, I came away from that visit thinking that they were very happy with it, the way it is, and that's, I'm one person
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
was on the original committee,
Mhm.
and I'm not trying to back out of it, but I'm not on the group that's working with the contractors,
Okay.
but in the group that screwed up on the pricing, the
Yeah.
original committee who got the estimates,
Okay.
you know.
And are we gonna see an insurance impact with not having sprinkler system in the building? Being that insurance is gonna look at, the square footage, we don't have sprinklers in there. What are we gonna end up paying over the long term for that?
Yeah, I can't answer that specifically, but the building does meet code, and I believe that would have a lot, obviously, we couldn't have it if it didn't. But the other thing that has been talked about here is that in the bays with the trucks, the concern is that something within the mechanism of the truck would cause a fire, because there's not a
Right.
heck of a lot else in there.
Right.
And the question is, would a water-based fire suppression system do much good in the case of an electrical or fuel fire? That, I'm not saying one way or the other, I'm saying that has been a
I'd
point of
take the
discussion.
chance. I'd take the chance on sprinklers. It'd help keeping everything else from catching.
I-
You wet down that toolbox over there, or, you just try and catch something that's wet, you can't do it. You can't catch something on fire that's
I'm just
soaked up.
quoting part of the discussions that we
Yeah.
had.
It's just, I'm kinda unhappy. It's a big building. The last one we'll probably ever build that's that big. I don't really see why we'd need another town building that big. I think for the last one, make it safe, and that's first and foremost, safe. I think that suppression is, that's just my main gripe with that, is the suppression, you know,
Thank you.
things.
Anyone else for public comment?
Sherry Burdick. I have a couple questions. One, or comments. I was on the original highway building committee to begin with. And one of the first things that came out of my mouth was, we better put fire suppression in that building. And there's been 7 buildings here that, or at the time, I think there was 5 buildings that had burnt at that point. And that, I said, if you're not gonna put fire suppression in, then I'm not staying on the committee. And I stayed for a while, but due to other circumstances, I had to leave the committee. But, so that's one thing. And saying that, I would like to get a copy of all the minutes from that highway building committee meeting, and also from this current subcommittee that meets once a week. So is that something that I can run up tomorrow and pick up, Tom?
Probably not tomorrow, but we'll pull them together. If they're right there in the file, Mary has them. But Naomi is out, so we're gonna have to wait till she gets back. Now, as far as the committee that's meeting, the construction group that's meeting, yeah, again, I don't have an answer for you, but there would be notes on everything that was discussed, I'm sure, as far as the why and why not, so what can be built. But I don't have a clear answer for you, Sherry, to be honest with you.
So call Mary and she'll,
Yeah, and see if she has a file with those in it, because she's also the highway secretary.
yeah,
So any minutes that were there when Tim was head, she should have a file on.
okay.
The construction minutes, that's like an ongoing revision of plans and gathering of quotes and so forth from the various subcontractors. So I don't know if that is in the same form that a public meeting minutes would be, because those are contractor meetings. So I think that my guess is it would be more in terms of the plans that were developed, rather than so-and-so said what.
Okay. So I will contact Mary and see if I can come up. I'll make the copies, do whatever, but I want to read through those minutes because I had made several suggestions, and those things, the reason I voted for that was because of fire suppression, and now we've taken it off the table. Unless we can come up with another plan to change something in that, to have it in there. The other thing was,
they reply, if anybody, when Sherry finishes, if anyone else has comment, please, on the board.
the other thing is, a couple weeks ago, there was a meeting here, and I keep hearing this comment made, it's twice the R value in the ceilings and wall. What is the R value? Because I asked the clerk of the works, and he had no idea whatsoever, which makes me very uncomfortable. Well, that's a basic question. Anybody working on that should know it. I can tell you what the R value is in my house. I can tell you what the R value is at the Stone Memorial Building. It seems makes me uncomfortable when I have asked questions that are pretty basic, and I'm not getting an answer. Really uncomfortable. So I'm not sure that we've got the right person. I'm really not. There was quite a few questions asked. I was there. The other thing was, I was denied. I was told by the clerk of the works that I could not go into that meeting, and I informed him he was wrong. And I have checked over in Concord, and he's definitely wrong, big time. So he better not be telling me that I can't come into a meeting here by the town. Again, just want to let you know, because I talked to the Attorney General's office. So you better get it straightened out, because I wasn't real happy about it. It's my tax dollars, and I've been in town my whole life, and I got 6 more generations behind me and one ahead of me that are paying taxes their whole life here in town. So I think that if you go in and you want to sit and listen to what's going on, it's a public body, and that you should be able to listen. And that's a right-to-know law for the police, the fire, the highway, the welfare, sewer, recreation, zoning, enforcement, planning departments, the office of town clerk, tax collector, treasurer, town and city managers, city, village districts, any other agency, authority, department, or office of the town. So you need to get that straightened out, because if I come in here and I want to listen to what's going on about that highway department, if he says it again, I think we're gonna have a problem. Just want to let you know, I want it straightened out.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yep. And the other thing is, on a lighter note, the Stone Memorial numbers have come in for propane this year, and which I figured out roughly. We have a 50% reduction in the propane over there since we did the installation. So just want to let you know that. And I think that's it. I think Tim covered the other stuff.
Sherry, it was either at last meeting or it might have been the meeting before. I had asked for the committee meetings, in the subcommittee meetings, and I was told there were none.
Who told you that?
Naomi?
Well, if that's the case, then I guess we've broken the law, because that's an RSA, that's a state law also. You have to have committee meetings, have to have minutes.
We had minutes taken in all of our committee meetings, so I don't know where that came from.
I don't know. But I'll call Mary tomorrow.
The building committee.
Yeah, I never saw any. I was there for 5 or 6 meetings, and I never saw any minutes taken.
I know there's none down here in the town clerk's office, so I don't know where they are.
So, okay, I'll check tomorrow.
Ready?
Betty Straw, 61 Flanders Memorial Road. As a citizen, as a taxpayer, I was appalled when I heard that there was no fire suppression in this building. I think it's unconscionable to put up a building of that size that we hope is going to last for a while and not have fire suppression in it. And I just want that on the record, that I am just sick about it.
Richard Brown, 37 George Moody Road. The way you're parking these trucks in here is ridiculous. The front, one of the trucks in the front catches on fire. You're never gonna get the back ones out. I mean, you should have them driving in and so they can drive in and out. I mean, it just makes no sense. Park trucks in there like that.
The alternative that was put forth when we were really first looking at a building was a building that was 80 feet wide and whatever it comes out to get that 1,120 square feet. We could not have them drive in and park diagonally, they wouldn't fit. So the plan that was presented had them basically all piled on top of each other. They
Well,
were
you got
in,
that now. It's,
well, you've got two in each bay. The way that it was presented as a building that was open only on the two ends, you would have backup of any number of vehicles, however many would fit going the other way. So the reason that was changed was to eliminate that, where if you get one vehicle stalled, then you're blocking probably 6 or 8 others.
well, I'm just saying the ones that are in the front by the doors, say one catches on fire, then the other one catches on fire next to it. There goes the fleet. I mean, it's just a little more common sense. I mean, the way this is, I don't know. I mean, I don't park my dump trucks inside. I got them under a lean-to, dirt floor, doesn't bother nothing. The new trucks today, they start in the cold. They don't need to be warmed up. I mean, that's all a farce everybody's been selling you. So that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you.
Frank Campana. A couple of things that actually, good thing that public comment was at the end. Mr. Meany was right. Sometimes something goes on at the meeting that bring up at the end. So you eliminated the correct public comment section by the first. However, on the flip side of that, and I was looking at the time when Mrs. Straw got up, and it's about 7:30. If you had kept your 7 o'clock starting time, she would have spoken. She would have been here for only 20 minutes to speak. So that's the downside of not having the first public comment. Whether you start at 6:30 or 7:30, you make an elderly person come in late and wait. But she stays and she makes the commitment because she has something to say. So congratulations to the board. Also, what came up tonight, Sherry Burdick mentioned about a meeting that she came to, and I attended that also with, my main reason for coming, I wanted to see if in fact the committee was disbanded as a response from a selectman had told the person. And I just wanted to see what was gonna happen. And she's absolutely right. Clerk of the Works says, no, can't have a public meeting. They were meeting with the contractor, the road agent, and himself. So, take that for what it's worth. That's the way you want to run your meetings. And I'm not saying you, but if that's the way the town wants to operate, by eliminating first public comment and denying people access to meetings, then you're right. There's a new sheriff in town. But, Selectman Meany won't like this because he doesn't like to go back too far. But this is the Weare Community News from last February 10th. And my issue is with the fire suppression. I've listened for a couple of meetings now, and certainly the discussion tonight. That building was presented with fire suppression. You talk about walls to get around the square footage and, it meets code. Well, you've gone from presenting the public with fire suppression to, in my estimation, to containment. All right? All you want to do is contain a fire. Well, I want a fire put out, if at all possible, for all the reasons stated. It's a new building, got a lot of equipment to protect, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll refer to the article that was written February 10th, and it was written by Tom here, and it referred to a sprinkler system is included in the cost figures for this proposal. An additional $884,000 is included for well, septic, cistern, and pump for a sprinkler system. Well, there's twice that it's mentioned. Now, somebody, I think last week, referred to, no, actually, I think it was at that meeting, the clerk of the works was courteous enough to listen to a few people before he had his meeting. Somebody mentioned the town report, the minutes from the deliberative session, in the town report. And both Tom and Steve Roberts were in those minutes stating specifically a fire suppression system. So it's been mentioned, all right? But the reason that I refer to the community news is because the community news gets mailed to everyone, had gotten mailed to everyone. So everyone, every citizen was warned, all right, and was made, the information was given to them, what this building was gonna contain, was gonna be fire suppression, all right? And, none of us are crystal ball readers, but it's probably, probably a good reason why it was voted in. So, you know, it was mentioned, it was presented as that way, and, you know, I heard here tonight, well, cut something out to get the fire suppression in, that may be a possibility, but, you know, here we don't even have groundwork started, and you're back, you know, there's backpedaling of what was presented to the public. All right, and that, and I said it before, for myself personally, you know, I'm, you know, you could look me up in the dictionary for being, you know, somebody that doesn't do a lot of trusting. And, you know, it's things like this that leads to that. Not that it would make me any more trusting, but, you know, it's, as I stand up here, you know, it was a volunteer committee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, it's not necessarily to be too critical, but the other statement that was in here is, this was a statement by the then sitting Finance Committee chairman, who was chairing the advisory committee. She recalled voters seeking hard figures in the past requests. This proposal includes realistic cost estimates. So this was back in February. You know, I heard Mr. Roberts stand up here and say that, well, it's, you know, the cost of steel has gone up, you know, over 2 years. Well, I would say that, you know, I mean, I'm in the wood business, and I know the cost of wood goes up, so I don't even think of that as a well, I think of it as a factor, but it's not a standout factor. I say, well, I have to include an increase in cost of materials. You know, probably that should have been done. I'm not sure. But that's my comment, and I don't need any response. I don't need any debate, hopefully. But the people were warned. The whole town was warned through the community news at that time. And it's now being changed. That's it. Thank you.
I'm not as eloquent as some of your other speakers, but I initially came for the same thing. Guess what? The sprinkler system, right? I went back to the town report, and it was in there, and as you've heard from other people, it was in an article in the paper. I think it's a mistake not to have that sprinkler system in. I think many people think it's a mistake. I wish that you would relook at the whole process and see how it can get in, so that what you heard here from some of these other people doesn't come back to bite all of us, which I think it might. So now I'm going to put that aside. You've heard it. I hope that you're truly listening. I have a couple of other things that I couldn't find in the minutes. Maybe they've been there and I might have missed them, but perhaps you can just answer very briefly. Is the clerk of the works doing it pro bono?
No.
How did, then, if not, did that go out to bid for clerks of the works?
No, we didn't. We put out a, we put out a request.
In the paper?
I assume we did, but I can't answer that for sure.
How could I check? How could I get that information?
Wait till Monday when Naomi's back.
Okay.
Because some of the things that you're asking me, I don't know.
Okay. All right. And again, this is strictly because I haven't been coming to the meetings, so I'm getting only information really from the minutes. I don't go on this YouTube-y thing. Have all the decisions been made by the board, like the contractor, and I couldn't find that, the clerk of the works? Are all the decisions made here at this board at a public meeting.
Yes.
Yes,
All
they
the
were.
decisions have been made here. I haven't seen anything of Benji's voice in the minutes. Has Benji been intricately involved in the building?
He's been at every construction meeting, every meeting with the contractors, I believe. Basically, the contractors, Naomi and Benji, and Bruce have been with the contractors, and that's what made up those meetings. That's why they were not the same as a board meeting, but
But it's a public meeting.
for observation. Yeah.
Okay, so let me understand. Who's making the decisions on all this? I guess that's where I'm leading down to, is whether there's a suppression system, whether it's their double wall, whether there's radiant heat, who's making all these decisions? Is that coming from the contractor, from Naomi, from Benji, from whoever the clerk of the works is? How is that coming about? So as a citizen, I know if I really want to get some meat of the information, where do I go? Who do I go to? Who do I speak to?
Well, you're speaking to us.
Right.
We've got the report, which was presented to us, which came from multiple meetings with the contractor, the general contractor. And then Bruce, who's serving as the clerk of the works, brought their plan to us.
So when you said earlier in the meeting, it was turned over to them, the them in that is the contractor?
Well, this board, and I don't mean to be rude, but this board hasn't got the experience to
Oh, I
design a
appreciate that.
building.
I just want to know who the them is.
Yeah, the them is the general contractor who's been working for really months, since last fall, putting together the designs. They have an architectural firm that they work with for designing the building. They put out all of the requests from the subcontractors, electrical, plumbing, and so forth, and everything else that has to be done as part of this in order to get their figures. And we've been hearing, that they're really doing everything they can to sharpen their pencils to get what they can out of the money that was available.
Okay, so Tom, you're telling me that them that you
Them
referred to.
meaning the general contractor working with our town administrator, with our Department of Public Works director, and our clerk of the works. Because those are the people who have the expertise to come up with what can be done within a certain budget.
Okay, I leave you with,
Am I missing
No,
something here?
and the whole board is apprised of everything that's going
The
on.
board has changed, so some of, in the last couple of months,
Right.
it's changed.
But they're brought up to speed. I mean, you include them in everything, obviously.
Everything that the rest of us
Okay.
have done.
Okay, I leave you with dreams of a sprinkler system. Thank you.
Speak one more time about the sprinkler system real quick. Pose this as a thought, the radiant floor heating, and I don't know the pricing of that. I imagine it's a rather expensive option. And because of that, we had to invest in this approximately $50,000 dehumidifying system. If we get rid of both of those and went with a standard radiant heat system, infrared radiant heat, like Mr. Towns suggested, that a lot of other garages use, I'd like to know if, and I know you can't answer this, I'd like to know if that money saved on the radiant floor heating and the dehumidifiers would cover the sprinkler or its fire suppression system.
Well, and I think what we're gonna have to do, John, and everybody else, is take everything that we have in the minutes tonight and go back and meet with the contractors to see if there are other alternatives that make sense. I'm not saying that there are, I'm just saying that, you know, we have an obligation, having heard this, to bring this information back and to explore.
And thank you for listening and taking in the comments of the people. To me, the radiant floor heating seems like a luxury, not a necessity. That's my opinion. Thank you.
John, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
The employer you work for,
Yes.
what do they have?
Unfortunately, radiant floor heating, however, we have had multiple issues with it. One of the problems we've had with it, we've looked at expanding, and it would cost a very large amount of money to expand that radiant floor system because it's in the concrete.
Right.
Whereas adding an infrared system is just running another gas line.
Right. Okay. I didn't know what they had down there. So.
We have radiant floor heating with a makeup air system. Thank you, folks. Oh no, we got salt. Unfortunately.
Anything else on public comment?
I don't know.
Earlier, then sitting Selectman Chair Lacasse talked about the way the building procedure went is they would start with a budget and whittle it down. They would not affect any of the overall characteristics of the building. They would not affect the safety fundamentals of it, but they would, if they ran toward the budget constraints, they would shorten the actual footprint of the building. That's one item. A couple of us went up to the Henniker DPW and looked at their exhaust ventilation system. It appears they have a 36-inch louvered fan at one end, and they probably have probably less than a 30-inch intake area. It would be my guess to weigh, instead of a $50,000 heat exchanger, dehumidifier, I'm sorry, we might want to look into a exhaust fans, 36-inch louvered exhaust fans, insulated louvers, and you set up humidistats all the way up the wall, and as the moisture-laden air builds, it pulls the moisture-laden air out of the building. Or we could try looking into a heat exchanger, something that would, because this, from what I know of like dehumidifiers, that thing will run, all your trucks can be preloaded, and someone told me that in a 10-wheel load of gravel, there's probably 5 to 6 gallons or more of water within that'll evaporate. You have all your snow that's melting off. You have the guys coming back and they get ice buildup on the trucks, and that's just hitting the floor. So this dehumidifier is going to be running non-stop. And the problem is if your garage doors aren't tight, it's going to be sucking in the outside ambient moist air. So these things can be running all the time when probably, like I said, if you put humidistats at different levels, it would pull the moisture-laden air out, or therefore the heat exchanger. A humidistat is probably like $30, and an exhaust fan is probably about $500. And that's it. Thank you. Oh, can I also, could I give you a copy? Could I get a copy of this and just show you the firewall that I proposed?
I think I know what you mean, you just divide the 6 bays into 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because when I talked to Benji, we were talking about replacing a firewall with this wash curtain is, the 70 feet of wash curtain. And that's another thing is washing stuff inside, that's just kind of crazy thing to do. My other issue was with the clerk of the works is he didn't really know what type of insulation was going to be on the walls or in the ceiling. Traditionally, in a metal building like that, you have what's called the metal building insulation, and that swath of insulation might be 6 to 4 foot wide, probably about 150 foot roll. They throw it up over the whole building, and then they roof it and they side it. and at the purlins, it's all sucked in. So the R value isn't so great where a purlin is, but what the clerk of the works told us was there was gonna be an insulation that would be flush with the purlins. But he didn't know if that was a rigid insulation or a fiberglass insulation. But let me tell you this, if it's fiberglass, and if there's any water intrusion behind this, it's gonna mold, it's gonna build condensation. And anywhere, if you got excess of moisture that goes to the ceiling, that migrates through a seam or a screw hole or anything like that, it builds and builds and builds. If you ever go into a metal building and it's like a big, looks like a soggy diaper, that's all water that's collected. One drop collects one, and so on and so on. And also, in that predicament, your roof, where they put the clips attaching to the purlins, it'll all rust out. Wherever there's a perforation through the galvanized steel, it'll rust out at the clips. So we need to know what, like I said, I was kind of really disappointed with the clerk of the works, the answers he gave, but hopefully you folks can help work that out. And I would like to propose that there's an additional, like I said, a firewall between those last two bays. I think that would make the voters more comfortable. You won't have to ask for any more money. Benji probably gets a better chance of getting vehicles to renew his fleet. Any other town projects would probably be more favored upon. But that's totally up to you people. And that's it. I'm going to shut up.
I have a couple of things to say. I guess I'm a little confused, not.
You were gonna get help.
I know, it happens every time.
I would not do that.
Just so we don't get into a debate.
No.
Are we finished with public comment? Because once we finish public comment, then we're working as a board and not.
I'm speaking as a board member anyway.
Okay, so.
I'm a little confused as to what has transpired, because I believe, I can't remember what week it was, I think it was beginning of April, Bruce came with the drawings and so forth, and at that time that he showed us the drawings, he had said that the building had been ordered.
It was gonna be ordered the following.
No, he said it had been ordered that day.
Right.
Right.
Right on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Gotta trust you,
Prior
right?
to our meeting. Okay. And I really wish that everybody here had been at the meeting that I attended on Wednesday, which was with Bruce, the architect, the Turnstone was here, Benji and Chip. Because it seemed to me that that was the final meeting for everything. There were new plans presented, the color of the building was chosen. This list of the project directory list, this is the people that were chosen to do the job. This here is a listing of the schedule of everything to be done. So, I mean, and Bruce was presented with 2 packets that needed signature. I assumed those would be here tonight, because I was assuming that those packets were for the selectmen to sign off on the building. But,
I don't know, I wasn't there.
well, I really wish you had been there, all of you. I mean, but you weren't advised, I'm sure. Did you know that Turnstone was gonna be there?
They're meeting regularly, yes. And I
Okay.
haven't been involved in any of those meetings because it's for the,
Why?
Right.
why? Because that's not what,
$1 million, Tom.
Over $1 million.
I'm not the expert on it, okay? I know nothing about buildings. So we have,
Why not put more people in place, Tom, is what we're saying. Us as a group.
public comments closed, okay? I don't mean to be rude, but it has. Did you have something else? Jim?
No, that was it.
Any other board members on?
Yeah, Yeah, it needs to be looked into, absolutely.
Okay, anybody have anything under correspondence? We have a complaint form that was put in front of me. Are you aware of this? So I assume, I'm not gonna use anybody's name on it, but it concerns target practice at 8 o'clock on Sunday mornings. And this person is concerned, firing guns at 8 in the morning on Sunday needs to be set a time when they can shoot. Not on Sundays, a day of peace. Then there's an expletive. And I'm not gonna read any further because but.
Can we guess who it is?
I'm not using that either here, but, no, and I don't mean to belittle the person's complaint. You know, if somebody's shooting next door to me at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, I'm sure that I would feel that there should be a complaint as well. So that's under correspondence, that there was a complaint. And I don't think we're gonna get more specific than that because the person might want the complaint to be private. Anything else under correspondence? Other business?
Well, I definitely think that we need to meet with the clerk of works and whatnot and straighten this out one way or the other. And my biggest concern listening to these people, especially Tim, is this clerk of works got any experience on commercial buildings or is he just residential?
He's a contractor.
I know he's a contractor, but what's he been working on? I mean, you know.
I don't know what his history is
You know,
as far as residential.
these are all valid concerns. I definitely, and that suppression system is,
There
that's what
weren't
we
any
voted
bids
for.
for that either. At that point in time, there wasn't
We
any
need to do
bids.
something about it. Somehow, somehow. That's all I'm saying.
Anybody else, any other board members? New business? Okay, in that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.